I built an airplane right here in my garage, and I'm going to show you guys what tools I use to make that happen. I'm Jeremy Drobak, mortgage master and airplane builder, but this is what I love. Let's get you home. I built this airplane right here in my garage. It's now over at the hangar along with some of the tools that I used. So I'm going to show you all the tools I used to get this thing done. We're going to start here, right here in my garage, and then the tools that are over at the hangar, I'll take you over there and I'll show you those ones that I used too. Most everything that I needed is still here. When I took the plane over there, there's certain things I've had to take on and off to do maintenance and things like that on it. And you can see if you watch the previous video, I took inventory in that video, and taking that inventory and then organizing it, a lot of the boxes with all the little pieces and stuff that I'd have to go back to multiple times, I hung those different things on boards, and I put a lot of the nuts and bolts and things in containers. And I'll show you some of that here as we go. Raw tools, like when I was getting ready to build this, I really didn't know what I needed or what I would end up having to buy. And you really will have a lot of this stuff in your garage. But let's I'm just going to kind of open these toolboxes up here and show you guys. So again, a nice work area is super important. You can see I have lots of storage here. Look at all these cabinets all the way down. I had this nice bench. That bench saw a lot of time. And you can see different spots where I would hang stuff, even up on the ceiling, up on top of these cabinets and stuff. There's a lot of things that you'll end up needing to find a home for. But tools specifically, I mean, let's just start what's right here in front of us, a vise. This vise saw a lot of use. It's nothing special, but I would definitely recommend a good vise. This drill press right here, like hands down, 100%, you have to have a drill press. It would be worth every penny. They're not that expensive. This was another piece I got to have a vise to help hold stuff. I would get something that's variable speed because you'll be drilling both aluminum and steel. You make sure you have some thread cutting oil. Use that a lot. You're gonna drill a lot of stuff. And a lot of these bearings and stuff do not fit right. This sander, I bought it before the airplane arrived. It's a cheapo one. I'm sure it was less than 100 bucks, but I definitely used it. There's stuff you gotta sand. It's a lot easier to do with a belt sander. I used my hand sanders as well, but there's just certain times you gotta take a lot off, and that's a lot easier to use. So grinding wheel, I used it here and there. I wouldn't say it's a requirement, but again, this is a cheap one for 30 bucks or something. Like, it's not a must-have, definitely. Neither of these are must-haves. This guy right here is a must-have. You have to have a drill press. These boy zip ties, you'll go through a lot of those. Get the builder's toolkit. That's gonna come with these reamers. Let me show you what a reamer is. This is a reamer. This is how Kitfox sends them. Okay, and if we open this up, it goes on the drill, and basically you're using it to clear the powder coat off of a lot of different parts on the frame and other items that have been powder coated. So I would just get the Kitfox builder toolkit. That'll come with all these. Here's another one. So, and there's some smaller ones I'm sure I have back at the hangar. I would get some step bits. There were some powder coated tubes that needed sanded inside, and I got this guy right here. It's made for brakes, but these little pads in here you basically stick this in, put your drill on here, and it helps clear that powder coat off. Worked really, really good. Really good. For as cheap as it is, I would definitely get one of those. Drill bits, I have 2 sets. One of them's over there at the hangar. But again, this one I wouldn't say is anything special. Like, get the builder toolkit. That will come with a bunch of number 30s and like the standard ones you use with Kitfox. But you're gonna need others, so I would get a set or 2. I might have bought some extra 40s, but I don't think so. I think I bought mainly an extra thing of 30s, short ones and one long one, just because those were bits you used a ton of. And Kitfox sends maybe five or six of them or something with theirs. I would say you're probably going to need more than that. Now, maybe I'm just not a good driller, but I mean, you get it too hot one time and the bit smoked and you're onto the next bit. So I would get an extra set of 30 going into it. That's where a lot of these costs add up, because there's just stuff that you end up having to buy. You definitely need a screwdriver set. It doesn't have to be as big as this, but you're going to need screwdrivers, needle nose pliers for sure. You know, I'd say for one reason or another, I used most everything in here at one point in time, but you need a set of general tools. I use these rulers a lot. I got a set of 3 of them off Amazon. I used this. It was pretty cheap off Amazon. Tape measure, of course. This was for my rib stitching. I bought these. These worked great. These are, so basically when you can put a little dots. I did it in the wood, but the point is you do that on metal, and then you can start the bit there. Knives, razors, whatever you want to call them. Down here, like, you're definitely gonna be cutting some metal. I use these for sure. Use these snips. I had bought some of these. These came in handy with doing the fabric. Plumb bob. You're gonna need air. Phone works really good for the protractor leveling stuff. I use that leveler I showed you and stuff, but a couple of times. But the bottom line is my phone worked really good for a lot of that. This guy right here, I had to buy. Oh, that was for my Pitot tube. Now I put it was a Dynon Pitot tube. You got to get the right kind from Aircraft Spruce or somewhere like that. They're not cheap. They're meant for 100 degree, and they got to be for like soft aluminum. So I just buy that for 2 tubes on the Pitot tube. That sucked, but maybe you got someone you can borrow it from, because that's literally the only time I used it. Oh, 100% need a riveter. You're going to be pulling rivets for sure. So which one do you get? If you can have both, I'd have both. I actually borrowed this one. I haven't returned it yet, but I borrowed this one. I pulled quite a few rivets through it, but I really only got it out a handful of times. And there's just a handful of times where you are going to pull a lot of rivets. Most of the time it was like 6 rivets or something I'd be pulling, and I just use the hand riveter for that. Must have a hand riveter. 100% you got to have a hand riveter. Optional is a pneumatic or electric one. Need one of these. You got to have one of these, and it's for your flush rivets. This is how you do like the back of the rivet. And this is if you need to dimple the metal, which you only do in a couple spots, but I would get both. Build a quality aircraft. Can you get by without it? Probably, but build a quality aircraft. You're definitely going to need to cut some cable. I use this to cut some sheet metal a little straighter. It's okay. I don't give it raving reviews. You're going to need this. 15th, 332, and 1/8. And the 1/8 is what you use a lot. You need that to swag cables. Must have. Definitely going to need sockets. You're going to need them. You're going to need the whole shebang. You're going to need a bunch of sockets. So yeah, you need a full set of sockets. You need a full set of wrenches. Do you need these kind up here? No, probably not. These kind will probably do, but you got to have a full set of wrenches. Files, definitely going to need some files. I have a little set over at the hangar I can show you. Hammer, mallets, stuff like that. I would get some kind of plastic to, pry on stuff or whatever when you need to. More wrenches and stuff. These are my bigger ones. You're going to need those. I mean, you're going to need something to work with a Bondo. It's not Bondo, it's airplane Bondo, but Superfill. I'd get a box of small and large. Clamps. Get a shitload of clamps. You can see all those ones I have there. Get a shitload of clamps. Big, small. Here's some even bigger ones I used a bunch. Used a bunch of these. These are handy. I got more clamps back there. You can see, I mean, my uncle told me once you never can have enough clamps, and I truly agree with that. I'd have a big level and a smaller level, medium level, square, some kind of square. Must have for Oratex. This is the one that they recommend. Sweet heat gun. So it's heat gun. Chalkboard markers. It comes off. And I just wrote on my cabinets. If you got darker cabinets or even lighter ones, try it out. Drills. Used my drills, my flashlight. I use that blower. This is a blower, just like a DeWalt blower. I used a bunch. Another must-have. Don't get a cheapie. Right there. This is gold. This is the money. You need a Dremel. I have this quartered one I used. I got a whole thing of Dremel bits, sanding with the Dremel, some diamond cutting stuff for the Dremel. Like, the Dremel gives you stuff. You'll cut metal with it, you'll cut wood with it, you'll cut all sorts of stuff with that Dremel. You're gonna need some of these red Scotch pads. A lot of this stuff I got on Amazon. Sandpaper. You can see these are all my round ones. I got sheets of it in here. I mean, get yourself like a pack, like all the way from like 60 on up. Get some 1,000 or some 1,200, because there's pieces of aluminum you might want to give a little shine to. This pack here, again off Amazon, but it's got a bunch of different grits, and that's what I use to sand down a lot of the bearings and stuff that you're gonna have to sand down. So I'd get something like that. That worked good. A lot of black paint. This is what I was buying. I don't know. Nobody told me what to buy. I researched. That's what I ended up getting. I painted a lot of stuff with that. I like this Raptor paint. That's the adhesive I got for spraying fabric down. Here's Oratex. See? Oratex glue. This is what I used to prep a lot of the aluminum. Superfill. Acetone. You're going to need that for the fuel tanks. I'm also going to have a video coming up on what I spent on a lot of this and how much it costs. So let's head over to the hangar here. We're at the hangar, if you couldn't figure that out. A couple things here at the hangar I want to be able to show you here. Very necessary tool right here. There's a lot of precise measuring you got to do. This thing works really, really well. Amazon special. I mentioned files. So I had a small set of files. These came in really, really handy. Again, Amazon special. Definitely going to need yourself a set of Allen wrenches. Don't forget the Allen wrenches. Here's a couple more useful tools when it comes to some of the reaming and whatnot. So another step drill bit. Get a couple of those. See, here's another one. You're going to need to get into some hard to reach places with the drill. So this 90-degree sucker worked really good for that. And then I had a clutch so you can put your drill bit in there, and then you can drill at 90 degrees. So that worked good. I use that a lot. We mentioned reamers in the other videos. And again, smaller set of reamers. That all comes with the Kitfox Builder's Toolkit. So I would get that. You're going to be deburring. You're going to need one of these to deburr. needle nose pliers. I use these long needle nose pliers a lot. More, again, depending on what you're doing wiring wise, you're definitely going to be wiring. So there's, again, some more crimpers depending on what all you're hooking up. You're going to need some snips for the wiring. I had a couple different sets that I got along the way. You're going to have to do safety wire. This thing's magical for safety wire. You put the wire in there and then pull this and it spins it tight. So I would get one of these. They're not that, again, Amazon special, not that expensive. I mentioned rubber mallet, right? I had to do some coax cable. You need one of these to do the coax cable. Some kind of label maker so that you can label stuff. Torque wrenches. You will be torquing bolts down. So I would get one, a big one, and I would get a little one. I used the little one much more. So foot-pounds and inch-pounds is basically the difference here. Again, you'll need, I would say you'll need both, but you definitely need the inch-pound one. That's what you're using 90% of the time. Something to solder with. Didn't have to solder much. I only actually soldered a couple things, but with the Oratex, you melt holes in the fabric. Again, this is an Oratex item, but you're gonna need an iron if you're doing Oratex. Depending on what avionics you're going with, you're probably gonna have to make some pin connections. That's what these are for. I would not run out and buy one until you know what pins you're going to be connecting, because they're all very specific. So I wouldn't pre-buy that. I would wait on that. Most definitely going to need some kind of countersink kit. This is a countersink kit. You can see that's what I got there. So, but this was from Aircraft Tool Supply. Absolute must-have tap and die set. So there's your tap and die set. I had not used that until I got into airplane building. I think maybe once in my life I used any tap and die anything, but I definitely use this tap and die set. Remember how I said you need sockets and wrenches? See, I even got them here at the hangar. A whole set. So you need those for sure. Good set of scissors, fabric scissors. More of an Oratex thing, but this is heavily used for Oratex. Get yourself something to mark the stuff you torque. Again, I love these grip ties. This is what they look like. So these are the grip ties. They're kind of pricey, but they work great. For the Rotax 916, must have right here. And there's a couple bolts you cannot get to without one of those. Had to get this. This was more of an E-prop thing. So this is a 13 mil to get to those E-prop, a couple bolts on the E-prop. So just like weird random stuff you're gonna have to buy. Make sure you have some extensions for your socket. You're gonna need probably some big wrenches. Get yourself, right there, denatured alcohol. Must have. Must have. This is my second gallon of this stuff. Use the hell out of that. This is something I guess I learned the hard way. I freaking hate Adele clamps. Hate them. They suck putting them on, but you definitely need them. And I bought the Amazon special ones and they suck. Spend the money, get some good ones. These are high temperature ones. They're much better, premium. And Kitfox sends some where you need some in certain spots, but I needed more for the wiring and the engine and some of the hoses and just different things. Not really a tool, but something still necessary for the build. So this goes to how I did a lot of the organization. And you can see I have 3 containers here. Container number 1. And I left them in the package because I didn't want to drop it on the floor and have a disaster. These are all extra bolts and stuff. But you get all these bolts. I would put them in a container. Like I did nuts, bolts, and washers in one. Screws, things like that. Over here in this one, I put all the rivets. So I left them in the bags and then organized them kind of by size. But then when the instructions say, you know, the instructions will say something like, get part number 95012 rather than digging through all those boxes you saw in my inventory video. You can say, oh, I need a rivet. Okay, I know where they're at. They're in this container, and find it from there. Flush rivets. You can see a lot of these are aircraft spruce ones that I got extra on. Oh, the mighty Cleco. You're going to need this. This is going to be your best friend, Clecoing. I'll get you some footage of Cleco operation, but Cleco, I never used one of these, but you push it in the hole, boom, tightens it up, pulls whatever tight. Kitfox will send the Clecos and stuff. I think all this came with the builder's toolkit, but again, another reason to buy a builder's toolkit if you don't have that kind of stuff laying around. I would most definitely get yourself a few of these containers to help with organization. It helped speed the build along when I didn't have to dig for stuff. So that's what I got, guys. It's those are the tools at the hangar that I didn't have in my garage. Kind of a nice little tool set here to wrench on the plane when needed without having to go run home. So that about wraps it up with the tool list. Next time we're going to get into some actual airplane building. Now just remember, I do mortgages for a living. I am a mortgage master. Airplane building is something I do for fun. So take this airplane building advice for what it is, free.